God being the creator
Mm-hmm.
and your heart calling God Father. Right? There's a difference between I was created by God and the life that I have has been born from God.
Right. That's what I said. I gave them the definition that Bertie had used of what a father is, and I think that's really critical. Is that he is one who shapes your life with his spirit.
Yeah.
And that really helps understand the difference between child and son or daughter.
Right. So
That's
Paul
the
called
case.
he said, inasmuch as we're all the offspring of God.
Yes.
In Acts 17. But those guys standing there, they didn't possess the Father's life.
Yeah.
They were alive, like Adam was alive, but they didn't have the Father's life. Their life, the life they had inside of them, wasn't born from the Father's Spirit.
Right.
It wasn't born from above. Right? The life those guys had, Paul was talking to, their life was born from the earth. Right? It was earthy.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so it's like the verse that says, you were of your father, the devil. So Jesus was talking more about the belief they had adopted and the life they had, and less about the identity of man there, right? There's a difference between the identity of a person and what God believes about that person and the life they have and what they believe about themselves.
Right.
Right? So they were claiming Abraham as their father. Okay? The reason they were claiming Abraham as their father, or their confidence that Abraham was their father, was in the flesh.
Yeah.
So they were placing their trust in the flesh. When they were thinking of, is Abraham my father, they were looking at their flesh and saying, by this flesh, that makes me the offspring of Abraham. Or by this flesh, that makes me the offspring of God. Now, that way of thinking is carnal.
Yeah.
It's devilish. All right? So then Jesus comes in and says, you're not the children of Abraham. Otherwise, you would do the work of Abraham.
Mm-hmm.
You would do the work Abraham did. Meaning, you would believe like Abraham believed if you were really the children of Abraham. That's when he goes into, you are of your father, the devil.
Right.
What he's saying there is, your mind is not the mind of God. It's not the mind of Abraham. You don't have the heart of God. You don't have the heart of Abraham. The mind and heart you possess is actually devilish. It's carnal. It's been born from beneath, not born from below, because the testimony you're giving about why you're the children of Abraham is your flesh.
Yeah. Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what you're testifying of.
Mm-hmm.
So Jesus was pointing out that you're not thinking like Abe thought. You're not thinking like God thinks. You're thinking like another guy thinks, who's looked at his own ability and said, I'll be exalted by my own ability. You are looking at your flesh and acting as if that flesh that you possess is what's going to exalt you. That's actually devilish. It's carnal. And you've adopted the same wisdom as the serpent, which would make the serpent your father.
Yeah.
The father of your life and the father of what you believe.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So their life, the life they had in the mortal body, was shaped by the serpent's logic. Right?
Yeah.
They were dead in sin. Do you see?
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So Satan was fathering the life they had. How do we know that Satan was fathering the life they had? Because they nailed God to a cross.
That's right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
God come to save, and they nailed God to a cross.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so they were full of all hypocrisy. They were full of hatred. They were full of envy. They were full of backbiting. They were full of gossiping. They were full of all that kind of a thing because the serpent was fathering their life.
Yes.
Okay? Now, that doesn't mean the serpent created them. That doesn't mean that they aren't the offspring of God. What that means is they were partaking of a life that didn't come from God.
Right.
Does that make some sense?
Does
It
that?
does.
Does that?